But there's one word that could really put a quick end to thoughts of going in the water. Sharks. And while most of us know that the ocean is their home, many people don't know that there are some things you can do to reduce your risk of running into one of them in the water. Richard Nunn is taking us to shark school today. He joins us live from the St. Johns River.
So, Rich, you spent an entire day on the water helping a group of UNF Shark researchers. What did you learn?
What I learned is that, you think you have an idea of what is in our water, and then I got to learn that there are species that may be becoming a bit more pronounced, the water as it changes and it warms, but the species and the overall health of the sharks here locally look like everything is on the upswing. And while some may say, okay, that's not good news for the ecology of the beaches, it's great news. And since 2009, the research team at UNF has been following not only the abundance, but the overall habitat of the sharks, the breeding areas, the nurseries, we'll call them, where they come in and have their young. But because of the health of the shark population, it's not uncommon for a small number of these shark bites to pop up here on our beaches. So then it goes into, are there things that we can do to maybe make ourselves less of a sight for the sharks? And here's what the researchers had to say.
The three species that are probably implicated in the majority of shark bites within Florida are probably the black tip, the spinner, and the bull. And as you mentioned, there's a very low proportion of bites that have occurred as a result of, for example, tiger sharks, and virtually none for white sharks. And so in most of those cases, we believe that these are cases of mistaken identity. People are out there surfing or far offshore during periods of time when the sharks are most abundant. They're moving close to the beaches, basically following bait fish populations. And it's not uncommon for people that get bitten in that fashion to immediately be released, which is good, of course. Yeah. And the bite, of course, is going to be traumatic, as you would expect, but it's not going to be the type of bite that you would experience from a much larger species like the white shark.
And just that sentence alone kind of makes you think, okay, sharks, period, are scary. But we have to think that when we're looking at our sharks, there are the apex sharks, there are the great whites, there are the tigers. Even though when I see a bull shark, if I'm out surfing, my blood still runs cold. Our abundance of sharks are the sharp nose, the sandbar sharks, black tip, the bonnet head, the black nose shark, the scallop, and it goes on and on and on. But they're not in that apex predator category. They still, though, can offer some bites. And like I said, I think the bull sharks are scary. Bull is a scary shark. When you see one in the water, you see one on a surfboard, it'll make your blood run cold. How is that not an apex predator? I mean, it seems like to be the bully in that meso list.
The bull's pretty high, and one would consider them to probably be at that apex predator level. And that would be one species where, yes, if somebody got bitten here in Florida, in many cases that's a fairly traumatic wound and can be obviously life-threatening because we have seen fatal attacks by bulls in somewhat recent years. Certainly, I think the last one was down south, wasn't it? A kiteboarder, I think, that was bitten several years ago. But as you had mentioned, the majority of bites that occur in what would be considered the most common site for sharks to bite people near New Smyrna. In most cases, those are the smaller species like the black tips and the spinners. One bite and they're done.
Now, I will say that globally, Florida leads the world in shark encounters, shark bites unprovoked, and 50% of those come from our neighbor down south. I'm talking about Volusia County here. So with the sharks in the water, is there anything that you can do to maybe lessen yourself from having this encounter? There's some research that says there are colors that you may not want to wear, some of those being the bright colors. Now, what I've learned is that it's contrast. So if you're in water that's bright and you're wearing something dark, then now you're a contrast. If you're in water that's dark and you're wearing something bright, say you're in the St. John's and you're wearing a white bathing suit, for instance, you're going to stand out. So it's those contrasts that you want to look out for. You also want to make sure that you're not swimming in the dangerous times between dusk and dawn. That's when the sharks like to come up closer to our beaches because the fish do. And you want to stay away. And this is the tough part here, because I'll say that you don't want to go swimming near the piers. Well, look at our tower cam and look at where all the surfers are. They're next to the Jacksonville Pier. You put yourself in that knowingly, put yourself in that danger, but you also go there because of the current in that area. It's a bit deeper and you get better waves. So, you know, with some of these simple practices of trying to maybe match, and I know that sounds weird, they even make camouflage wetsuits that actually look like, if you look in a swimming pool, that kind of light reflection. They're getting into more of those. But if you look at, even go back over the last 5 years and look at the people that have been bitten along our beaches, surfers are wearing dark wetsuits. You don't see yellow wetsuits. They're being bitten by, you know, anywhere between their knee and downward. And so your skin itself is a contrast. And when you're splashing and adding more motion to it, it's more of an attraction for sharks. So is there really the ultimately safe way of staying away from them? Yeah, stay on the beach. But if you try to, you know, think about some of these things, especially anything that would be like a watch or something, keep the shininess out and maybe the splashing and the horseplay and things like that down a little bit, maybe reducing your risk this much. But the numbers here across the globe just last year, I want to say, and I'll double check here, but it was 57 bites. So it kind of goes back to that idea that there's a better chance that you're going to win the lottery. Build your own ocean and not have to go in with the sharks.
Yeah, you know, I know, Rich, that there are more shark bites probably down in New Smyrna Beach area because of the prevalence of them down there. But if somebody were to jump in a helicopter and fly along our beaches, they would be surprised how many sharks are out there and how close to shore they are.
Weaving in and out of us as we swim in the water.
I always tell people that anytime you're in the water along our beaches, I would almost guarantee that you are no more than maybe 50 yards away from a big smiling fish.
Yeah, and you know, also at certain times of year, there are great whites off our shores.
All right, guys, you're freaking me out now.
And by the way, you know what they call...
Okay, that's it. I quit surfing.
The great white in Jaws, you know what its name was? Bruce.
No, what?
It was Bruce. Yeah.